Would you believe me if I told you that the largest rugby tournament in North America was LGBTQ+?
That's why on this episode of the Gay Rugby Podcast, we're talking to the chair of the NORAM Cup, Quinton Leduc.
Quentin, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
So, Quentin, you are the vice chair of International Gay Rugby.
That's correct.
You are the chair of the NORAM Cup, which is the North American version of the Bingham Cup, which is an inclusive rugby tournament happening in just a couple weeks.
20 days.
I believe you're also the president of the...
Vice president.
Vice president
Yeah.
of the Boston Ironsides.
That's correct. Yep.
Wow, that's
Cool.
a lot of hats to wear.
Yeah, I like keeping busy, eh?
Yeah, I mean, what is it? Idle hands or the devil's playground, right?
Right? Yeah. No, it's been a lot of fun. I was elected in Rome to be vice chair, which has been a lot of fun the past, going on a year, yeah. Past year, I've been the chair of NORAM for over 2.5 years now, my vision, and then been the VP for about 2 years.
Cool.
Yeah.
And are you from Boston originally?
No, so I'm from Ottawa, Canada. I lived in Toronto, and that's where I fell in love with rugby.
Very cool.
So I joined Muddy York. So shout out to the guys over there. Joined them as a player, then became their treasurer, then became their president, and so did that for a few years, and then afterwards moved to Boston.
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bunny wants to be part of the podcast once again. Hi, Bunny.
Yeah, he's the real host here.
He's a real star of the
He
show.
demands all the attention. So how did you first get into rugby?
That's a very interesting story. So when I graduated high school, I went to university. Then in university, I was still figuring out about coming to terms with being gay. Then I decided to get up and leave, and I moved to South Korea, and I lived in South Korea for many years, for 7 years. And when I was in South Korea, I started to play with a rugby team there, and just felt like I could be myself, and I didn't have to hide who I was. So then when I moved back to Toronto, I had no one, no friends, no nothing, because it's a new city. I wasn't from Toronto. Mm-hmm. I met Muddy York, and then I just realized that that's when I could come out, because I only came out when I was 26.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's only been a few years, and it was coming out with Muddy that made me fall in love with the sport, because playing rugby, you can be who you are. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. How was there like a language barrier when you were playing in South Korea?
Yes.
I mean, and I asked because rugby is played all over the world,
Yeah.
and when I've traveled, and I'm sure Jack, when you've traveled too, sometimes we'll go to the local rugby or IGR teams practice, and we just jump in and do some cardio. So there's sometimes it's a different language, and so it's interesting, that intersectionality, right, of like the sport and then the language. So how was that experience for you?
It was actually pretty interesting, because at the end of the day, it's like you said, when you jump into rugby, it's all the same passing, same gameplay, and all that. And then even if you don't speak the same language, just the looks they give you, or when your props, so I'm a hooker, when your props are yelling at you to get in the middle, you know what they mean.
Yeah.
And then even though I would yell cues in English, they all know with me yelling what I'm asking them to do.
Yeah.
So it just works.
It just works.
A lot of body language.
Oh yeah. Like
the
you
social
could
cues.
you could have people all different languages, and we would still understand each other, because we'd be like, here now, and they would get it.
Yeah.
You know.
So in Korea, was it an inclusive team, or it was just so welcoming that you felt like you were able to be yourself on the team? And
so that's the interesting part about Korea, is even though being LGBTQ is not recognized in Korea and all that, and there's somewhat of a stigma against being openly gay, they don't, when you play rugby and that, they just don't care, because Korean culture is very handsy, very all that. So I could be who I was, and they had no issue. It didn't bother them that I was dating guys or whatever, because at the end of the day, we were just there to play rugby together.
that's great.
Yeah,
That's how it should always be, right?
which is not the case.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. I saw recently that North Korea is actually opening a tourism initiative for LGBTQ plus people. Do you guys you have any interest in visiting North Korea?
So I have visited North Korea.
Oh, no
already.
way.
Yeah, I was there as part of the Pyeongchang marathon.
Oh,
no way.
Yeah, so you can sign up to do the marathon, and it's really cool because it's the only marathon in the world where supposedly there's 50,000 fans in this stadium cheering you on because they want to be there. We can take that as we think, but it's fun because you're walking around, you're running around, and there's always someone beside you. So you're never alone when you do this marathon.
like, what do you mean there's always someone beside you?
There's always just someone that pops up running beside you that's Korean.
That's interesting.
And what was your experience as like a gay man in North Korea?
Well, I was straight for that 7 days.
Okay.
Hey, better be safe than sorry.
So it was very, very, very straight. At the end of the day, North Korea is, in its own way, stunning, and that there's so much wrong with it. But with what you see and all that, it is really cool to see something that has not changed from the 70s.
It's kind of like stuck in place.
It's stuck in place, yeah.
And how did you decide to take on the responsibilities of the NORAM Cup?
So that's a fun story. So I moved to Boston in 2022. And when I moved to Boston, I decided to join the Ironsides. So I started playing with the Ironsides right after Ottawa Bingham. So I joined them right after Ottawa Bingham. And then I decided to run to be their VP. Won that. And then talking with their president, Dave, and he always said, because this club, the Ironsides, great group of guys, they've always tried to host a tournament. They always try to put a bid in for Bingham and lost. And then Dave's like, I would never want to host a tournament. It's not going to be on my thing. I was like, well, can I do it? So then I decided that I was going to create this tournament. And so I put in a bid, and shockingly we won.
Oh.
And now I have NORAM coming. And the vision for me, the reason why I wanted a tournament in Boston was I want people to be able to see the city the way I see the city of like, hey, you're coming to Boston? Well, yeah, you're going to figure out that we have Bostonian accents. You're going to figure out we pronounce words incorrectly. You're going to see what makes Boston unique, because a lot of tournaments we go to, we don't really experience the culture. We don't really experience the city. So this was a way to showcase that.
And Boston has such a rich history.
Oh, yeah.
Like architecture, and it's a really exciting venue for a tournament like this.
It's an amazing venue for the tournament, especially from the history to the architecture, like you say. Like a fun thing is like the opening ceremonies at Big Night Live, and Big Night Live is in TD Garden. So if you know anything about Boston or sports, you know TD Garden is this big, iconic.
I'm a Laker fan, so yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah.
You might want to change
Actually,
teams.
I heard the best basketball team in the whole NBA, it plays at the TD Garden.
Yes, they
Isn't
do.
that right?
Yep. And then afterwards, so with that, you have TD Garden, Barbie Orr statue, and then you're going to have a big sign that says, welcome to NORAM, and then the opening ceremony is right there. So you have the history get brought in, you know. And then we brought in the history by our closing ceremony theme, which is Spill the T-Ball.
That's funny.
Oh, I love it.
That's good.
And I know that we've talked a lot about NORAM and Bingham and IGR on our podcast, and even just now. But for someone who has no idea about this community, who has no idea what IGR is or what NORAM is, can you give us like your pitch of what is NORAM and why is it important?
So NORAM stands for the North American Cup, which is a North American Rugby tournament. It composes of teams all over North America that's coming for a weekend to celebrate inclusivity, our joys we have at rugby, but then also I like to call it one big family reunion that we do every 2 years to see each other.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
That's very accurate. I feel like the international gay rugby community has become a family for me.
It is, yeah.
And I remember my first tournament, second tournament. By the third tournament, I was like, I should start learning some of these people's names.
Oh, tell me about it. I know faces. And then people are like, oh, hi, Quentin. I'm like, hi.
It's good to see you again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of us, you know?
There is.
And it's funny because I reconnected with my very first friend ever last night at a bar, and we were talking about this project and the international gay rugby community. And I was like, yeah, our rugby team is generating 10 million views a month on Instagram. And he's like, who's watching that? You know, like this community, you're like the only gay team, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, no. this community is huge.
It is.
And what I think is so cool is that Bingham is not just the biggest gay rugby tournament in the world, but it is the biggest rugby tournament in the world.
100%. And
NORAM's so cool.
NORAM's becoming the second biggest for North America.
How many attendees are we expecting this
So
year?
the fun part is in Charlotte, they had roughly about 24 teams. And with that, they had about 700 to 800 people. And so when I planned, basically did the bid, I was saying, okay, 800, good number. We're right now at 1,236 participants so far. Wow. So we are pretty much double the size. We're over 36 teams. We're featuring the first ever women's division. So we have 4 teams competing for the women's plus division, which is amazing. We have the largest trans match with over 70 athletes from all over North America attending it. People just flying in just for that match, which is really cool.
That's so exciting. What do you think the biggest change was since last NORAM to this NORAM that's brought such an influx of new attendees?
I think it has to do with a few things. I think one of the big ones is what's going on in today's society.
Yeah.
With the way that we are being targeted, unfortunately, as a community, I feel that this is a space where we get to just be ourselves for 1 week and not be judged and just feel safe. And I think that played a factor. Mm-hmm. I also think people saw the vision that my committee has decided to do with we release things ahead of time. We were very on top of it, being proactive. And then once it picked up, well, one team showed up and then another one registered, then it just became this domino effect. Because a funny story we had was we opened registration on October 1st. Within probably 24 hours, we got the first team, which ironically was not the Boston Ironsides. They didn't sign up first. Nope. But we had the first team sign up, and then afterwards the Ironsides signed up and all that. But then we were maybe 72 hours away from done early bird. We only had 7 teams. Well, then early bird, within 48 hours, 21 teams signed up. Wow. So we went from being we're going to project 24 teams to, oh, hey, we're at 28 already.
That's not a bad problem to have, I guess, right? I mean,
when you have to replan the whole opening, closing, and try to fit everyone in a room.
That's true. Well, I mean, we've experienced very cramped spaces before.
We have.
Names not mentioned, but you mentioned the political climate and how we are our community is seemingly under attack. Yeah. Do you think that maybe the number of attendees possibly could have been even greater if certain people weren't maybe bowing out in protest or kind of taking a time out because of where we're at right now?
100%. We lost 3 teams due to the fact that they did not want to attend based on what's going on between Canada and the U.S.
Yeah.
And I have full respect in their decision because I understand it. Being a Canadian, I get the attacks and all that. And yeah, our numbers would have probably
been even
increased.
Greater.
We would have been greater, 100%.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But, hopefully we can change that in the near future. Let's hope. You also mentioned earlier about, the North American teams. And I know that Bingham has been all over the world, but I'm not sure that Bingham has been hosted by a Spanish-speaking country. So definitely not NORAM, because NORAM is still in its infancy. Do you envision one day maybe NORAM being hosted by one of our neighbors?
I would love to see the NORAM Cup and the Bingham Cup be hosted by a Spanish-speaking country. I find those IGR teams over there are doing so much work, and they have what it takes to be it. And ironically, right now, Mexico City and Washington Scandals are both up to host NORAM 2027. So it is possible that we could have the next NORAM in a Spanish-speaking country, or it could be in the capital of the United States.
Nice. Well, we'll see what happens, right?
We find out at the closing ceremonies.
I think that'll be really exciting too, because then Ozzie will actually be able to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening right now. ¿Qué?
English is his second language.
I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. So let's talk about the trans match.
Yes.
Because that is such an exciting and monumental opportunity for trans players to play together and celebrate inclusivity in rugby, especially during such a polarizing time in this country, especially for trans athletes and trans people in general. Can you talk a little bit more about the trans match and why it's so important and how it's grown?
Teaming up with Paladin for the trans match at this year's NORAM Cup makes a bold and game-changing step towards true inclusion in sports. As a first ever title sponsor, Paladin isn't just backing a match, the championship, a movement. The unwavering support for trans athletes sends a powerful message far beyond the field. In this game, everyone belongs, everyone matters, and everyone deserves to shine. And that's what this game is going to demonstrate to everyone outside of rugby.
And those are the types of partnerships, right, that we need and we want. We don't want someone just slapping a rainbow sticker on their logos. So this is true leadership and partnership and allyship. So that's amazing.
It's so cool. And then with that partnership, Val working with Jax, a trans designer, we're able to create these amazing jerseys that will be showcased during the tournament, that will really showcase what this whole community is about. And then Paladin, it will be doing a special trans store just for the tournament as well. So there's gonna be some fun merch just for this event.
Shout out to Jax. Jax also did our jerseys.
Yes. Yeah.
And by our, you mean the Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club jerseys.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But maybe
providing
we'll make
context for people who have no idea what you're talking about. Because I feel like when you talk, it's needed.
We need translations underneath. Subtitles.
Oh, so all of a sudden it's the roast of Ozzie. I see what's happening here.
That's the whole part.
Actually, we should, Jax, maybe we can get some Gay Rugby Podcast jerseys.
Hook it up, Jax. Exciting. And how many players are expected to participate in the trans and non-binary match?
As of right now, it's roughly over 70 players. I'm expecting more to show up the day of and want to participate. So I'm very excited for it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I know that the last trans match at Bingham was actually televised.
Yes.
Is there any sort of media coverage that's going to be happening this year?
We are hoping to. We are just trying to figure out how we're going to do it.
That's fair. Step by step, for sure.
Fair enough.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
How exciting. I'm really excited for the trans match.
Me
I think
too.
it's going to be a lot of fun. But speaking to that a little bit, I know that with the current administration and the political climate, a lot of trans players ended up having to back out of the tournament because of issues with visas and travel restrictions. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about that. And what that's meant.
So there has been some different policies put in place that affects people traveling to the U.S. So it has affected with some of the trans players coming from Canada, also coming from Mexico, that won't be able to attend.
Have you faced anything? I mean, aside from the obviously the social political aspect of it all, have you encountered any pushback with policy or any like monetary losses?
Yes, unfortunately, we have. We've been, just the past week, we lost over $40,000 worth of federal grants because we are unfortunately classified as a DEI initiative, and that's not acceptable. We also lost $10,000 worth of sponsorship due to the fact that the sponsors lost their funding from the federal government, which meant they had to pull our funding because they cannot be associated with, again, a DEI organization. So in total, in the past week, we have lost close to $60,000, but we are still going strong and making sure the tournament runs smoothly and best we can.
So obviously it's a domino effect, right? But we are no strangers to fighting uphill battles, and we will figure it out. And for those of you listening and watching, we all have to do our part. You guys do your part too, because we can't sit idly by while stuff like this happens, because there is going to be another NORAM, and we want to make sure that the next NORAM doesn't experience what you guys are experiencing now. And
I think one of the biggest acts of resistance that we can do is to form community and work together on a grassroots level to support each other and support the movement and support inclusivity in rugby.
100%.
Yeah. Should we talk a little bit about IGR?
Yes, we can.
International Gay Rugby. What is IGR? What is IGR's role in planning these tournaments? And maybe for someone who has no idea about this community, like, what do you guys do?
So IGR, International Gay Rugby, like you say, we're the organization that oversees over 100 something clubs throughout the world.
Yeah.
And part of that is we have 3 big tournaments with a new one that's going to be that will be showcasing in the next few months. So we have the Bingham Cup, which is going to be in Brisbane in 26, the NORAM in Boston, Union Cup, which is going to be in Oslo, Norway. We also have the IGR Touch Tournament, which would be in Leeds, UK.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important to separate the touch tournament from maybe the full contact tournaments like Bingham?
So that's a very good question. And it's one that we've been going back and forth on a lot. And the big reason why is in Rome, there was over 3,000 athletes. Wow. And for 3,000 athletes to do a Bingham with all the fields, all the ceremonies, everything, and you're going to add another component like the touch tournament, add that to it. That's another 1,000 athletes you possibly could get on top of it, which it becomes too big.
Yeah.
Second, touch teams deserve their chance to shine on their own stage. They don't need to be overseen by us contact players. They should have their own tournament, and this is what the members wanted, and this is what we're going to be giving them.
Very exciting.
It is very exciting.
Can we petition for beach rugby? Maybe?
I mean, that is something. I mean,
that'd be a good.
We all have the speedos for it, so.
Yeah.
I'm particularly excited about Touch Rugby Tournament because this gives Ozzie an opportunity to get back on the pitch, get some workouts in, and play rugby again because I miss you, bud.
I miss you too.
I miss you.
I mean, we can always get Ozzie at the Legends match. They just do touch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll do that.
You just have to be over 35.
I will not disclose my age, but yes, I am over 35. I
just want to clarify because the Legends match at NORAM in North Carolina was full contact. Is there a reason why the Legends match, which is for older rugby alumni, is there a reason why it switched to touch from full contact?
No, it's going to be contact, but we're just going to tell him it's touch so he can play in it. Yeah.
I've been bamboozled.
There you go. Very cool. What has to happen for you to consider NORAM like a success?
For me, it's already a success. From the moment we declare it open at the opening ceremonies, it's a success by just having over 1,200 people in attendance, by having all the North American IGR clubs buy into this vision and really want to be there. That is a success. So for me, my expectations are out of this world because I'm just amazed with this community and with everyone showing up, and this tournament is going to be a great tournament.
Awesome.
It will be, I'm sure.
I'm so excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see all those cute rugby boys in those cute rugby shorts.
Yep. Hopefully we have nice weather so that we get some Speedo action from the Orlando Otters and that.
I want Speedo action regardless of what the weather is. Okay, so you're on notice.
Well, this has been a really fun episode. Quinton has some merch from NORAM that we're going to show off.
So the fun merch is our jersey, which was designed by Cam. So huge shout out to Cam for this design.
Shout out.
So with it, we see the bridge. Our inspiration is the bridge. So this is a replica of the bridge. And then on the back, we get the fun State House, Boston, the Zeke Bridge. And then again, it goes all the way down. And then the one thing that we all know is the with you. Because we are a community.
With you, yeah.
And so that's what we wanted to do.
I love the design. I do have to say, growing up in Boston, the bridge gives me a little bit of trauma just because of how long it took to build that bridge.
Oh, God.
The Big Dig. Yep. The Big Dig was my entire childhood. And when the bridge was built, that's when I left. So I'm excited to go back and visit and see what all the fruits of the labor were all about.
There.
But yeah, make sure you get your merch orders in. And then what's that you're wearing right now?
So this is another one. This is my favorite sweater. It just has a NORAM Boston 20 for 5, which is fun. The colors here represent the state flag and the city flag. So that's why we went with these colors, because we wanted to just showcase Massachusetts and Boston.
It's a great color scheme.
Awesome.
I like it.
Can you pass me that ball?
Yes.
Whoa. Check this out, you guys. Your very own NORAM 2025 Boston rugby ball. It works.
It does.
Here. See? There we go.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Going back to my hooker days.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought you were doing that yesterday.
I mean, I was talking about rugby hooker, not like my day job hooker.
You guys, this has been so fun.
It has been.
It's been
Quentin,
blast.
thank you so much for joining us today. This episode of the Gay Rugby Podcast. We'll see you in Boston like 2 weeks.
Will in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, counting down the
Hopefully
days.
we'll all be in Speedos.
Hopefully, yeah. Or noodle bags.
Yes.
Well, if they sponsor us.
For all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, and share. Follow us on social media at the Gay Rugby Podcast. And remember,
Don't just play the sport.
change the sport. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Gay Rugby Podcast. If you liked this video, do us a favor and subscribe. Hit that bell to change your preferences to notify all, and that way you'll get a notification every time a new episode comes out, which is going to be every Monday. So share this video with a friend, like, comment, and we appreciate the support. We'll catch you on the rugby pitch. See ya.